What's up, buddy? How we doing?
Hey, good.
Dude,
I
what's that
arrived
on?
in comfort for this show this time.
Yeah, what's on your hat?
So this is the year 2017 of my life where I worked for the Frederick Keys baseball team in Maryland.
Shout out Frederick Keys, dude. All right, buddy.
Yeah,
Um,
they unfortunately lost their affiliation with Major League Baseball, but they were Baltimore Orioles affiliate at the time in 2017.
yeah, right. No, that was a good year right there. 2017, man. Um, awesome. All right, Recliner Sports Reporters, welcome back to Knockout Bets podcast. I'm Mac, and with me as always is Andrew. Boy, talk about some great fights last weekend, huh? And all 14 fights went off, no cancellations. Everyone fought. Big card, long card.
We
What was
didn't
your
have the
thoughts
main
on it, man?
event canceled on us like halfway through the card.
Dude, if there was going to be a main event that was probably going to be cursed and canceled, it would have been that one. Because of so many that have happened recently. But thank God it wasn't because wow, John Jones is
John Jones actually fought and won very, very easily in impressive fashion.
John Jones is back. I'm I feel like like every now and again when you finally guess a fight the way it's going to play. I mean, we talk about lots of fights and we've had lots of opinions on the fight, but like when one literally goes the exact way that you said it was going to go, like you feel like you actually know what you're talking about. And I know like even like listening to Joe Rogan, the other commentators a lot this week. This is the first time in a long time, like this weekend, I was kind of like talking, talking through like what I was seeing on the fights, and then I would hear them say it, and I'm like, oh man, like I'm actually like starting to, and like I start to feel like you start to get confident in yourself, but then you remember, oh, it's the UFC, and anything can happen. But wow, man, John Jones back and dominant. What was your thoughts on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the UFC was very wise in giving him that matchup for his first fight back, giving him a guy who has terrible takedown defense and not phenomenal defensive grappling. So I think it's exciting. I think the UFC played it well. I'm super excited to see John Jones fight Stipe. That's a fight I've been wanting to see for 5 years now. Um, it does feel, and I think I've said this on this show before, but it does feel a little bit like when we finally got Mayweather versus Pacquiao, but they were both like a little too old and past their prime from when we could have had it.
Well,
Um,
at least Pacquiao was, you know. I think
yeah, and
Floyd,
even
I think
Floyd
Floyd in that one.
wasn't in his like total prime. But anyway, yeah, I mean both these guys. I mean Stipe's in his 40s now, and John Jones is in his late 30s. So both these guys are. It's not seeing the fight 5 years ago is my point.
Yeah.
But I'm still super excited for it. I mean, John Jones is arguably the greatest fighter of all time. Stipe Miocic is probably the greatest heavyweight in the history of the UFC. And so you have two all-time great fighters that are going to get after it, and I think it's a more exciting style matchup with two guys who are both pretty well-rounded in that one, and I'm super pumped in here for it.
Yeah, I think you're right on that though, is like I think Stipe 5 years ago against John Jones would have been a tougher contest for Jones. I think he walks right through him. And again, Cyril Gane's no joke, man. Cyril Gane is I mean, he's been at the top so many times and just, been the interim champ, I think at least once. Just hasn't beaten the number one, lost to Francis, but has knocked down every other guy in his path. And the way John Jones did that was so easy. Um, it really just makes you just understand how great John Jones is, and why he is the GOAT. And so I think he has found a home in that division. I think he's definitely going to have to be careful as he keeps progressing with this, because there are some guys that have a lot more power in their hands, with a lot more one-shot punch guys in the heavyweight division. So he's definitely, like, I think about like the Dominic Reyes fight when he got outstruck by Reyes. The heavyweight division is not one of those divisions where you can get outstruck. So he's got to make sure he's on his game. But I do think his wrestling for a heavyweight is really impressive. And again, heavyweight wrestling, and you even look at this as just regular wrestling, right? When you look at like high school wrestling or college wrestling and heavyweights, the guy on top, it's really hard to get a heavier person off of you. And so it's easier for the smaller guys to scramble and get out of stuff. But when you got a guy who's 248 pounds on top of you, doesn't matter how good of a grappler you are, you have to be super strong. And so I think Jones is smart with his body. I think if he can just manage and be dominant in the takedown division, and being on top, this guy, he knows how to keep it there. And that was exactly what he showed. I love too, I saw Henry Cejudo. There was film of Cejudo drilling that move a couple days before the fight. As kind of a last note to John Jones, is saying like, hey, like, you might find yourself in this position against the cage. Like, don't tire yourself out here. Go to this, front takeover. And literally you watch him do it, like, just like that. And like, even the tap out, I didn't even know
Right.
how
So
quick
there's
that.
the exact same thing to move to the next fight. There's the exact same thing. There's footage of Alexa Grasso training the submission that she caught Valentina in.
Right.
Uh, training, we know Valentina likes to spin. If she spins, try to look for the back take and the choke. And obviously that's how that played out. She shocked the world.
Yeah, and again, another one. Yeah, congrats to Alexa Grasso. We now have 3 champions from Mexico. Congratulations to the country of Mexico. You have 3 wonderful champions there. Wow, what a time to be. That kind of needed to happen. I think it really shook up the UFC big time. I think it makes you excited again, and kind of prepares us now for this next fight night card, which me and you were just kind of talking about online. Which, talk about a fun free fight. This one is definitely one that you like to have. One, it's free, but the UFC is putting some dogs on here. So we have UFC Fight Night Yan versus Devashali. This is going to be a bantamweight main event. Gonna 2 top contenders. I'm glad to see Peter Yan back. The 4 fights that we've picked tonight, we're gonna start off with the very first fight of the night, which is gonna be Carlston Harris, who's coming in at 17-5, going against Jared Gooden, who is 21-8. This is a welterweight fight.
Whoa.
No, my bad. No, that's sorry. Second.
First of all,
No.
that fight's not even happening.
Yeah, I was gonna say
That
that's
fight
not
got
right.
canceled.
Sorry about that error. We're going with first fight. The first fight we're going to talk about is Tyson Nam. Tyson Nam, who's coming in at 21-12, going against Bruno Silva, who's 12-5-2. Tyson Nam is the slight underdog at +160. Bruno Silva's coming in at -190. I really like this matchup. Talk to me. What do you think this one's going to play out like?
Yeah, this one's tough. This one's similar to one of the fights that we're going to talk about later in my mind, where there's kind of um, 2 possible outcomes that I see for this fight, and each one has a different guy winning. Tyson Nam has 20 wins. He has 13 knockouts. For a guy fighting at 125 and 135 pounds, 13 knockouts is a lot of knockouts. So he obviously carries big power. We've seen it time and time again, including in his most recent fight against O'Day Osborne. He's got really good takedown defense. He's really good at baiting guys into mistakes. He has really good counter striking. He does go super low volume at times, um, looking for his opponent to make a mistake and to find that counter and to put somebody out. He's been successful a good handful of times in the UFC with that kind of style. Silva, other than power, I think kind of has Nam covered everywhere in this fight. He's the better wrestler. He's the better grappler. He's got the better technical striking. All that being said, Silva's been off for 2 years. Silva's competition before he was off was not the tippy top highest level. So I do think Silva wins. Um, I'm a little wary of betting Silva at like -190, -200, where the line is right now after 2 years off, after not having faced the top of the top competition. There is always that possibility that you know, Dom is able to find that one big one hitter quitter. Uh, so I have not bet anything on this fight yet. One way I might look at it is Bruno Silva by decision finish, no action. But even that, I mean, I can see Silva finishing Nam a variety of different ways. So far, no bet. Might end up betting Silva on the money line or parlaying Silva on the money line. But just not sure where I'm quite gonna settle yet. This one's a little squirrely to me. It's not an obvious spot that I'm gonna jump on right away so far.
Yeah, I agree. I have to agree with you there on the squirreliness of this. But I think I'm leaning more towards Nam on this. And the reason being is, like you said before, just the knockout power. Although Silva has really good striking, and I think he's definitely got the grappling division. He's got or grappling advantage here. I think Nam has a really good tendency to find chins and really creative with the striking. And like you said, kind of finding holes and mixing it up and just getting having accurate finishes. And then when you look at the value side at +160, I tend to lean a little bit more on that. I think this is definitely one of those ones, though, I would tread lightly. This isn't one of those ones where you want to slam the underdog here, and I wouldn't slam heavy on Silva's money line either. This is definitely just I would, whatever you're doing, I would sprinkle on this because there is so many things that could happen here. But my guts telling me to lead with Nam here. I also don't have a bet on this yet. Um, I do want to add real quick before we keep moving on here, what I am going to be doing, and this is something that I did last weekend. There is an app called Chalkboard. All right, Chalkboard is an app where sports bettors place their picks. Jay Bookie, good guy. Met him on TikTok. He has a chalkboard and he has really great admins on there. And there was a Warriors only admin group. And shout out to I want the Hawaiian Warrior, at the Hawaiian Warrior in Chalkboard. This man went 12-0 last weekend on his fight picks. I was following you the whole way, my friend. So I am definitely curious to see what your opinion is on this fight, and I'll probably be tending to lean towards that. But that's because I am so torn between these two. My gut's telling me
Yeah.
Nam. My gut's telling me Nam. The facts are telling me Silva. So I'm going to have to break this down. I'm probably going to wait till the last minute to see what the Hawaiian Warrior is going to pull out. So
I
go
would
ahead.
say if you are gonna bet Nam, that you'd want to bet his KO prop and not the money line. Just
Yeah,
my personal opinion.
especially with his last couple fights that he's lost in decisions and finished with knockouts. So it doesn't seem like he does enough. And again, I think when you have a grappler too, that judges sometimes tend to lean towards the ground control, although we've seen it go the other way too. But I think Bruno Silva also can handle his own in the striking department. So if it comes down to ground control, when both guys are pretty equal at striking, the judges are going to probably tend to lead towards Silva. So but yeah, shout out to the Chalkboard. Go follow Jay Bookie on the Chalkboard. Fired Up Sports. They are dropping nothing but locks. All right, the next fight of the night. We've already talked about him, so we already know how it is, but we still want to hopefully get to see it. We're going against Nikita Krylov, who is coming at -170, going against Ryan Spann, who is coming at the slight underdog at now. This line tightened up a little bit more to +145. Nikita Krylov again coming in at 29-9. Ryan Spann coming in at 21-7. I'm guessing the line probably tightened up a little bit because of Krylov. It was Krylov who missed the last fights, and that
Called out.
does worry me a little bit because it hasn't been that much time away, and it seemed like when he pulled away, it was pretty serious. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on how you're feeling now, though.
Yep, it sounds like we agree. So anybody who wants to see the real breakdown that I did of this fight, just go back 2 episodes and find that. I'm not gonna totally repeat myself again, but the gist of it is that in my opinion, Krylov is the better fighter everywhere, but Span is super dangerous to finish it by guillotine. He's got like 5 or 6 guillotine finishes on his record. Super dangerous guillotine, and of course carries knockout power. Krylov has a way better striking differential. Krylov's a better wrestler. Krylov's a better grappler. Um, would give him the advantages pretty much everywhere. It's Spence super, super dangerous. Span's last 5 fights fall ended in the first round. So you have to wonder about the cardio, not necessarily question it, but just haven't seen him go out of the first 5 minutes in his last 5 fights. So don't really know what he looks like there. All that being said, and Krylov's quality of competition, only losing to some of the best, et cetera, et cetera. Krylov pulling out. Both guys are cutting weight again for the second time in 2 weeks, so it's not like either guy has an advantage there. They did bump this up to the catch weight at 215 pounds, so each guy's getting a little bit of a reprieve there. So I do think Krylov is the better fighter. I also think he's the guy that pulled out 2 weeks ago, and that's a super sketchy spot to bet on, especially when cutting weight for the second time in 2 weeks. I don't want to bet on the guy that was sick 2 weeks ago, cutting weight for the second time in 2 weeks. I also don't want to bet Span because I do think Krylov is a better fighter. So despite this being our second highlighted fight, and not having a bet on the first one, I don't have a bet on this one either at this point. I did have a bet on Krylov the first time, but it feels a little sketchier to me this time around.
Yeah, Krylov is the guy who should win this fight, hands down. You look at the stats, you look at the numbers. He's the one who should win this fight. Again, the problem is the sketchiness of he felt it was, not an injury, but he was sick. And again, 2 weeks ago, and we all know this isn't like Michael Jordan in the flu game where you're going to go play basketball for 4 quarters. You're going to potentially get your face pounded in. You're going to be fighting for in fighting, as we all know, is one of the toughest sports that you can do. So when you're saying toughest sport you can do physically for your body, and you were sick 2 weeks ago and had so sick to the point where physicians had to pull you from the fight, it does worry me a little bit. Now, I know the UFC wouldn't put him back in there if he wasn't fully cleared, but we've seen this feels like a trap to me. But it also feels like a trap to bet
I
Ryan
agree.
Spann too, because there's that storyline of, hey, you know, Ryan, he was sick, so Ryan Spann's got all these finishes, he can win. And so to me, I think the smart bet here is to just kind of wait till weigh-ins, wait till and wait till fight night, because this thing could totally get canceled again. Not that it, hopefully it won't. But I would wait till later on until you get a little bit more information about how Krylov's doing. But I would not. This is a little bit too early for me to take this fight just because of all the factors that have gone on before. And again, these are real factors here. Again, we all know the house always has the advantage when it comes to betting. So don't just go into this thinking, oh, this is an on paper Krylov wins, because again, when we're talking about something that pulled that man out of a fight 2 weeks ago and now he's back. But again, on paper, and I think you take away all that, I think Krylov's got it hands down. He wins this, but I see this thing as being maybe even a grittier fight. I think maybe the over could be something you might want to look at.
I was just gonna say the under, so we're on the
Yeah,
opposite sides of that.
but I do think that that's definitely something you want to kind of just keep on, but keep an eye out on.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say actually the opposite of that. I think guy coming in, both guys cutting weight for the second time in 2 weeks, um, theoretically are both more easily able to be knocked out. Theoretically, either one could gas out early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we're talking about guys that are go for broke early, and we early finishers naturally anyway. Yeah, I've said it twice already. Span's last 5 fights, none of them have gone um, even to the beginning of round 2. They've all finished in the first round, and Krylov is a pretty prolific first round finisher too. So um, one thing I do like with this fight that's a little bit chalky, but I think it's a decent parlay piece, is to go you go the super safe route, which is I think what I might end up doing, and go fight does not start round 3. That somebody finishes it before the end of the second round. And if you want to go even riskier, you could go fight does not start round 2, and I think that's not a terrible bet. Uh, I think the doesn't start round 3. That's at like minus 300 for doesn't start round 3. So that's definitely more of a parlay piece than something that you're going to look to bet straight up, most likely. But that's one angle that I haven't hit it yet, but I feel like I probably will soon, and almost definitely before fight night.
Awesome. All right, that takes us to our co-main event of the night. We have the return. He's still around, ladies and gentlemen. Alexander Volkov going against.
He's only 34 years old. He's not even. I mean, we're not talking about Guido Canetti or some of these guys
No.
in their 40s. Stipe
Uh,
even.
Alexander
I mean,
Volkov
heavyweights last longer, but
versus Alexander Romanov. Volkov is coming in at the slight dog at plus 130. He is 35-10 going against Romanov, who is minus 155, who is 16-1. Andrew, tell me, how is this thing going to break down?
yeah. So when I was talking about the Silva and Nam fight, that there's kind of two possible outcomes that I see. This is the other fight that I was referencing. This to me is Romanov by dominant wrestling in the first round, whether he's able to find the submission finish like Tom Aspinall was able to do against Alexander Volkov, or whether he's able to just get it into such a position that he finds the ground and pound finish. Romanov is a phenomenal wrestler. Volkov has a weakness in his wrestling defense. We've seen Aspinall exploit it. We've seen Curtis Blades exploit it, among others. And we've also seen that Romanov has about 1 round of gas. And so if Volkov is able to survive, which I happen to believe that he will be able to survive the first round, I think that we could definitely see a turning of the tides in the second round, a tired Romanov, a Romanov that Volkov is able to keep at range, to use his length. The guy's 6'7", and he's got the arm length and the leg length that goes with that. He's got good volume for a guy as huge as he is. And I think we could really see the tide turn in the second round, possibly even a Volkov second round finish or third round finish. But if we do go the distance, I see most likely Romanov winning the first round and Volkov winning the second and third. Yeah, I mean, Romanov lost to Marcin Tybura in his last fight, and now he's kind of getting a step up in competition against Volkov. So it's interesting matchmaking by the UFC in that way. That being said, got to worry about Volkov's takedown defense, but I think Volkov is able to survive the first round. I think he turns it around, and I think he takes the fight. I did bet Volkov at plus 130 already. Not a huge bet, but I have a bet on Volkov. And I think this is a solid live bet spot too. I think if Volkov does survive that first round and Romanov's pretty clearly won it, if Volkov's plus 130 before the fight, he could be plus 500 going into the second round, and that's definitely hittable at that point. So yeah, I like Volkov. I also think Romanov's an imposter a little bit. I mean, you look at the guys he's beaten. It's Chase Sherman, it's Jared Vandera, it's nobody impressive. And he fought 40-year-old Juan Espino to a split decision, and probably should have lost that fight. I'm not buying that Romanov fits in with all these other. I mean, Volkov is an ov too, but all these other ovs that are great wrestlers that are just steamrolling anybody. I think he's an outlier who doesn't quite fit into that. And um, Volkov is a really really good gatekeeper, and I don't think Romanov passes the test.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think Volkov gets it done. I think we're talking about a guy who is, you know, on a pretty, I just want to just check just to, you know, beat Rosenstrike, but, lost to Aspinall, lost to Cyril Gahn. I mean, the guys he's lost to are just total dudes. But then he went and KO'd Rosenstrike, which is a tough guy to put away. And scary guy himself who also has finishing power. So I like Volkov here. I like the plus money on this. I think you get it in now. I think this line's going to get tighter as we get fighters just because Volkov is such a fan favorite. I could see money swinging this line because people like him as a fighter. So I agree with you on this one. I think Volkov, and I think the longer this fight lasts, the more it leans towards Volkov. Like you said, Romanov beat guys who have gas tank issues, who have issues at the heavyweight division, are only known for one punch power. And once they get into deeper rounds, it's easier and easier to put them away. Volkov has fought the best of the best time after time. And so I'm on Volkov for this one.
I love it.
All right. Our last fight that we're going to break down, the main event, we got Peter Yan coming in at 16-4 and the minus 250 favorite, going against Merab Divashali, who's coming in at plus 205, who's 15-4. This is a bantamweight main event. Peter Yan's out for blood. I think if he loses this one, I think he's gonna just quit the UFC because I think he's gonna think it's rigged.
What if he loses by split decision?
If he loses by a split decision, he is going to literally, I think, quit. Talk to me though. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do some sort of like really detailed, in-depth breakdown of this, but I just don't think it really exists. I mean, the breakdown of a Merab fight is Merab's gonna wrestle the fuck out of you, or hold you up against the cage like he did against Jose Aldo, or you're gonna be able to escape and he's not, and you're probably a better striker than him and gonna beat him. Um, that being said, I mean, there's a little more to it. Merab's wrestling is incredibly relentless. He has a great gas tank. He just keeps coming. Good cardio. However, this is his first 5 round fight. He's never been in a 5 round fight. And so to see that style of just trying to wrestle you for every minute of every round, pretty much, I mean, that's a slight exaggeration, but not much of one. To see how that holds up over 5 minutes, I'm not questioning it. I think he does have a good gas tank, but we just haven't seen it. And so that's got to be a factor when you're betting this fight. Joked about it right off the top. I mean, Jan has lost 2 in a row, split decisions. You can make arguments that he won. You can make arguments that he lost against Sean O'Malley, against Aljamain Sterling. He was clearly winning the first Aljamain Sterling fight before losing by the disqualification. And none of us are Aljo, and none of us are inside his head, and none of us know how that went down, whether that was legit or acting. So, I think we just have to put that one in the past, no matter what we think. But Jan was clearly winning that fight. So those are his last 3 losses, and even the other loss on his record way back was a split decision loss too. So the guy is arguably close to undefeated if you want to look at it that way. That 1 loss by disqualification, 3 losses by arguable split decisions. I mean, what do you say about him other than he's probably inarguably the most well-rounded guy at 135 right now. He is an incredible striker. He's got good offensive wrestling. He has 90% takedown defense, which I think is going to factor into this fight big time. He also has a good get-up game when he does get taken down, which I think is going to factor into this fight big time. We all know he likes to start slow. He likes to download information. He likes to get his reads, and then he's going to come at you. He's got well-rounded striking, works all three levels well. He has kicks to the head that can put you to sleep. He's good in the clinch, which I think is going to be a factor in this fight also. And so, like I said right off the top, really in this fight, if you're predicting it, if you're betting it, you're betting, is Merab going to get the takedowns over and over and over and hold him down or not? And I lean strongly on the side of not. I mean, you can see in the number, Yan has 90% takedown defense. You can see in watching him on tape, he has really good takedown defense. And he has a good get up game, and he's going to piece Merab up when they are on the feet. And so I am leaning heavily to Yan. I actually have parlayed Yan. I parlayed Yan with a few fights from next week's UFC 286 card. So you can check out my parlay on Bet MMA Tips, but I do have a bet on Yan, and I think he wins here.
Yeah, I think Jan wins too. And I don't think that he's going to let this one get to the judge's decision. Knowing Jan, he's got to make an adjustment though on his because you're right. He is a guy that starts off fights slow, but it has really cost him in these last couple fights. He can't start off like that. So I'm hoping that he's made adjustments to his game plan to get reads quicker. But I think in terms of the volume that he's going to put out is unreal. The guy has been against Aljamain Sterling, who I think his wrestling is some of the top in the division. So the wrestling for Merab doesn't scare me because Jan spent almost that whole entire second or third round, I can't remember, on his back fighting off submissions against a guy who is probably one of the best wrestlers in that division, if not the best. So the fact he could do that, I'm not really worried about Merab. I think Merab's going to get his takedowns. I think that's going to happen. But I think he's not as good as grappler as Aljamain was. So I think Jan, it's not going to be as much for the judges to decide this one. I think Jan puts this one away. I think Jan gets a finish here. And I see Jan winning this one. I too have also included Jan into some parlays. And I'm might be looking at his prop bet for knockout.
I like it.
Awesome. All right, that takes us to our knockout bets of the night. My knockout bet of the night is going to be Nam. I like Nam to find a finish here. Like you said earlier, I think if you're going to bet this fight and you're leaning towards Nam, you might as well just go ahead and throw it on the knockout. So my knockout bet of the night is going to be Nam.
I like that. That is a very solid choice for this card because I am looking at it and not seeing a lot of knockout possibilities. I wonder what the line on whole card has no knockouts would be, because that would be an interesting line to me on this card. But I'm gonna pick one for the purposes of the name of the show. And I'm gonna cheat because why not? I'm just gonna say that the fight Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann ends by KO one way or the other.
So just by finish,
Just
has to be.
fight ends by KO.
I like that. If you find that, I wonder what those odds are. That's a good one.
That line is out there somewhere. I'll see if I can find it. Why don't you give us your lottery ticket, and I'll see if I can find that fight ends by KO line real quick.
All right, my lottery ticket. All right, we got a couple underdogs and a couple heavies here. I really like this. So mine is going to be a 5-fighter. I don't know why it's not showing up though. It's going to be a 5-fighter. No, sorry. Nope. Yeah, 5-fighter. All right. We are looking at plus 1100. Is going to be Nam, Nurmagomedov, Volkov, Yan, and then Batista. I really like those fights. That's gonna get you at plus 1100 odds. I think that's a pretty safe one. I think those are all. I think you got a couple underdogs in there that you're getting good money and value on. I think you got a couple other heavy favorites in there that should get the job done pretty easily. So that's my lottery ticket.
All right. So I have a lottery ticket. Guido Canetti, first round. That's plus 1600. So that's what we're leading it off with. Then we're parlaying that with Volkov's money line at plus 135. We're parlaying that with Ryan Spann inside the distance at plus 190. And parlaying that with Brzeski's money line at plus 200. So I don't have the number in front of me, but that's probably plus somewhere in the 10,000s. Got to be
That's
at least
that's the
that, if not
lottery.
higher than that.
That's the lottery
That's
ticket.
the lottery ticket. If that all hits, I am taking the day off from work on Monday. Let's
I
put
was
it that
about to
way.
say that's the I'm not coming to work on Monday ticket right there. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Make sure to follow for all of our fight picks on our Twitter at recliner_report. And go ahead. You can also follow Andrew on Bet MMA Tips. Follow us there. We put everything that we're betting out there. Bet responsibly. Best of luck to you all this weekend. Thank you all for your support. Please like, share, subscribe. And as always, keep the
Keep
change.
the change.